It looks like it's going.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to keep this part in it too because I can't. Oh, yeah.
Recording?
It looks like we're recording. If not, this will be an interesting hour.
Okay.
So we are here with the at-home edition of Square and Compass Promotions podcast. Normally, I do these at the Windsor Masonic Temple, but we've all been told to stay home. So I'm here at my place. I was just telling our brother Gord Maitland how disgusting my place is. I don't know if this is safer or not for me, but here I am. And Gord is also at home because we're both doing what we're supposed to be doing. So with that, welcome.
Here I am in my dining room.
I don't even know what this room is. It's just some random place in my house I've never been to before. But welcome, Gordon Maitland, to the program.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Cheers. I'll raise my cup too.
Cheers. I got a Masonic cup going on. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's the Pennsylvania Masons when I got a chance to visit their beautiful Masonic Temple. So you are.
Mine's ecclesiastical.
But first, let's talk about your Masonic career because you've had a very illustrious one.
Okay.
You're an illustrious brother after all. But tell me how you got started in Masonry, where you first learned about it, and how you first became a Mason.
Okay. Well, the first spark, I suppose I could say, was when I was at seminary in Toronto. One of my fellow seminarians, who's from Lancaster, his dad was a big Mason, and he was initiated into Masonry, I believe it was in my third year of seminary. So he told me about it and some of the things that had happened, being discreet, of course, but he did show me his apron as well when he became a Master Mason. So that was the first intriguing sort of indication that, oh, this looks like something interesting. But then when I was first ordained at my first congregation as the assistant priest at St. Luke's in Burlington, sure enough, they sponsored me and I was initiated into Wellington Square Lodge in Burlington in 1992. So I've been Mason for over 25 years now. I was not too involved for a little while. We had our children, and we had moved down to Port Rowan near Long Point, and I visited the lodge there a couple times. I wasn't very active. It wasn't until we moved to London, Ontario, that I got back being very active in Masonry, and became master for the first time at Oak Ridge Lodge in London. But I didn't join any concordant bodies until after we moved to Windsor in 2007. And it just happened, one of my parishioners was the deputy for Ontario for the Scottish Rite. That was Carl Fairthorne. And he invited me to join the Scottish Rite, and I did. So, as you can see, Church and Masonry have been connected because it's been parishioners, more or less, who have invited me to join different bodies and different parts. So that's sort of briefly how I got into Masonry.
And what was there anything when you first joined that surprised you about Masonry, or even throughout the years, anything that continued to surprise you about Masonry in your Masonic journey?
I can't say anything's been a big surprise. I had no preconceptions when I went in, so it was all sort of new and interesting. It was maybe more esoteric than I expected, which was a good thing. I was interested in that. Now, I've read the anti-Masonic stuff that's out there too, but that was never persuasive for me to keep me from joining. And I've done a lot of reading and research, so although it's pleasant to discover what's in the different bodies of Masonry, it hasn't been a real shocking surprise, if I could put it that way.
Do you, we're talking about this during an interesting time, hence we're doing it from our homes, and we're not, Masonry as of right now has been postponed indefinitely. But, I've seen a lot of posts and a lot of people talking about, in these difficult times, some of their Masonic teachings, or some of the things we're taught about temperance, and dealing with challenging times being particularly important at present. So I guess because you are, one of the leaders of Masonry in our county, you're very active, and you do a lot with the Rites and with Rose Lodge. How do you think Masonry can assist us while we all get through this self-isolation and the current circumstances together?
Well, I think Masonry can help on a number of levels. One is, of course, we have a ready-made community where people are in touch with one another. I've been in touch with my secretary, members of the lodge, and I know you've been in touch with members of your lodge. So just being in contact with people is a way to avoid isolation while we keep our social distance. So I think Masonry can help in that way, but I also think Masonry can help in another way. We've heard of people doing panic buying and hoarding toilet paper and stuff like that. And as Masons, for one thing, we do not hoard, we're not selfish. We look out for others. And I know Masons could help those who are shut in at home, for example, by buying groceries for them, perhaps, or some other ways. Obviously, being very careful in doing that. But I think Masons can set the example of helping those in need, and certainly by not being selfish.
We have actually, for Harmony Lodge, I did a membership call because I'm the secretary there. And we have many brethren, the younger brethren have offered to deliver groceries or supplies to older brethren if they're cautious about leaving the house, as they should be. Not necessarily to talk to them, they would just leave them on their porch and then, retreat back to the safety of the car. But, it was a great moment because I called the membership list and no brethren, a couple, needed assistance here and there, but no major calls for assistance. But many brethren said, if you do need help, though, if somebody does need groceries delivered or anything, just let me know. What about,
and I think that's
go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that exemplifies true Masonic spirit, that people have just spontaneously said, I will help if you need my.
I've lost Gord Maitland. Oh, there you are. The screen froze for a second.
I'm back.
What about,
I don't know if
it's, don't touch your face, for heaven's sakes, don't touch your face.
I know, I'm trying not to.
I didn't realize how much I touch my face until like this week, and suddenly it seems that's all I do.
It's true.
Do you
Go on.
You mentioned at the start of this you learned about Masonry while you were in school, and you learned about it through your church. How is your church and churches in the city coping with this current situation? Because I know you're incredibly active. You're the parishioner of your church, and you obviously care a great deal for all your members. So how are you dealing with that?
Well, as you probably know, all our churches have been closed. Worship has been suspended. So that's very unfortunate that we can't meet. But of course, it's the right thing because we don't want to spread the virus, at least potentially among people meeting in church. And obviously, some of those people are among the most vulnerable. So worship has ceased, but just like in Masonry, the phone is there to contact people. I was in touch with my wardens yesterday to speak to them about different concerns. Some churches have gone to doing online Bible studies or online services of some sort. Others have tried to stay in touch with social media in other ways. So we're trying to be creative here. But the important thing is to be in touch with those who are shut in, those who are potentially most isolated, so elderly, single people who now can't go out, don't have a ready-made community, and we want to stay in touch with them. So we don't know how long this will go on, obviously, but for the moment, no worship.
You talked about
Or no public worship, I should. Yeah.
That's a good point. I like that distinction, because whether it's masonry or religious devotion or your church, right, there are still things you can do privately. You know, prayer, or in case of masonry.
Absolutely.
In the case of masonry, you know, you can study up on your work, or do some research to help you prepare, because we're going to come back.
Absolutely.
So.
All those things.
You
I mean, now is the time to educate yourself in terms of Masonic education. That's true.
You did mention, we're all in the same boat. We don't know how long this is going to last. So, what advice do you have for people dealing with the uncertainty of it? Because no one likes to not know what's going to happen. To be told this could go on indefinitely, and just to be kind of stuck waiting it out. Masonry talks a lot about temperance as being one of a cardinal virtue that I think we all need to practice right now. Prudence and fortitude. But what advice would you have for Masons just waiting to get back to lodge? I've never been so bored in my whole life without lodge meetings to go to.
Well, I'm afraid that all those virtues need to come into play. Patience, I guess, is linked to temperance and all the rest, and we have to be patient. And I know it's not easy. Read, go online for a little bit, do a puzzle, even go outside for a walk. Well, I have to go outside for a walk because we have a dog and stick around 3 times a day. So there's just little things like that, but otherwise, yes, it's going to be a boring time, and I hope people don't start going nuts because of boredom.
Going back to your Masonic journey, you're currently the master of Rose Lodge. You've been past master as well of Rose Lodge. Obviously, with your position in the church, you've taken on the office of chaplain in the past. What advice would you have for Masons who are going into officer positions, especially those leadership roles, like master, like even the chaplain can be a leadership role, spiritual leader for the lodge. So, what advice would you have for
them? If I have any advice, I guess one thing is know your brethren and know your work. So, as master or senior leadership, you should have read through the ritual book and know it. And knowing it means you'll be able to put those brethren who are best at certain parts with the right parts. So there's that aspect of leadership. Another aspect of leadership is patience and humility, because you have to remember you don't know it all, and you have to lean for advice on past masters, upon senior brethren who have been there before, and you want to seek out their advice and to discern their help. So certainly an amount of humility is required for doing this. And just be in contact with other people if you need help. You can't do it alone. Like any community, you can't do it alone. So if you need help, contact someone. When I was master for the first time, I remember being very uptight about doing the work correctly. And a senior Mason, a very wise Mason, allowed me to go over to his house, and the two of us worked on it together. All the responses, all the opening and new closings. And that was a tremendous support for me, for him to do that practicing with me. So seek out that help. People want to help. And that would be some of my advice for masters.
And moving on past craft lodge, you did become very active in the rites in Scottish Rite. You're you manage the Almoner fund. You're there regularly, and what was your title again in Scottish Rite? You recently received a very
Grand
well-deserved
Prior.
Grand Prior. You did receive a very well-deserved honor, your Grand Prior. What advice do you have for Masons considering going into the rites, be it Scottish Rite or York Rite, or perhaps both?
Well, several bits of advice. Don't do it if you have small children. I think family comes first for us as Masons. And if you have small children who need a lot of attention, don't get sucked into the important bodies, because it does take up some time. So it wasn't until my children were in high school that I joined the Scottish Rite and to be some of the concordant bodies. So time is something you need to be aware of. The other thing is, don't join the concordant bodies just to rack up titles. Because if you join a body, my feeling is if you join something, you should be contributing to it, or why would you join? Unless you're just selfishly collecting a title. So, if you're joining a body, contribute to it. Join it means you come out to its meetings and you take part in its rituals and those kind of things. I guess another bit of advice is that you do not seek honors within these concordant bodies. So, if you are looking to be raised up to be a 33rd and sort of politicking and courting opinions to make that happen, it won't happen. You have to put your time in, do your work, and if you do your work, people will notice. The brethren will notice, the senior membership will notice, and that's when you will get your promotions and all those kind of things. But you can't go around arrogantly saying, well, I'm going to be a 33rd in a few years, because those are the people who never get it. So that's part of my advice to that.
Do you think in life, in general, both in Masonic bodies and in other organizations, there is that concern that people now seem to be more interested in, getting honors or getting titles as opposed to the work of whatever it is they're doing, especially with social media and everybody kind of posting their successes and only their success, never post any of their failures on there, only their successes and that type of thing. Do you think that that's a concern right now for life in general, masonry and otherwise?
I think that's true in life in general. So it's true in the church, for example. There are those who, are online or media sluts, if I can put it that way, who court attention and try to look great, hoping that people will raise them up and see how great they are. But that's true in every organization. There are those who want the titles, they want the honor, they want the attention. And that's unfortunate because in the end, people look at them and say, that guy's just an arrogant schmuck. So I think you need to be careful of that.
Moving forward, are there, we are going to be coming back to Lodge eventually and we'll be meeting again. What type of things are you looking forward to moving forward in Masonry? I'm looking forward to 2021, which is our 100th anniversary of the Masonic Temple here in Windsor. But is there anything that you're looking forward to? Every time I ask a master what they're looking forward to, they say it's being past master, being an IPM. But anything on your end you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward, well, there's several things. I am looking forward to the general sessions, which will be this September. Now the Scottish Rite doesn't meet nationally, except every second year. So this year in September we'll be meeting again, and looking forward to honoring those new honorary inspector generals. We have 3 from our district, or our valley in Windsor, and we're looking forward to honoring them. I'm looking forward actually, Karen, to 2021, because of some exciting things around our Masonic Temple. I think that would be a good thing to raise that up and to celebrate that. I hope all our lodges will take part in that. Well, we need to do some coordinating of that, but I think that would be a good thing. And just looking forward to regular Masonic life, we were going to initiate a new candidate for Masonry in Rose Lodge in April, and we've already told the guy it is postponed indefinitely. So just to get back to some of those routine things would be great.
Do you,
And I guess that's what I'm looking forward to.
in the more immediate, one question I had for you, because this is something I'm grappling with, and I'm sure many Masons are right now. April's around the corner, right? Masonry is postponed indefinitely. Does Rose Lodge plan to still send out a summons? Right? Normally, your summons would have meeting dates, but I was thinking maybe a summons with just a message from the worshipful master, or just something to let the brethren know that the infrastructure still functions in the lodge. Any thoughts on that? Because I've been debating whether or not to send something out.
That's an interesting question. I hadn't put a lot of thought to it. I think, though, just off the top of my head, I think we will still put out a summons, which just says, I'm sorry we're not meeting, and stay in touch, and all those kind of things. Because actually, most of our members get our summons electronically. So it's not going to cost us a lot of postage just to send out something electronically. We're thinking of you, stay in touch, we hope this will pass, just those kind of things.
And then,
yes, I would send a summons out.
Talking about the current circumstances, I just read that as of yesterday, California suspended all their Masonic activities. There's my cat. That's Bandit. That's Bandit's butthole. So say hi to Bandit. The Grand Lodge.
I'm sure he's weathering the COVID-19.
I think Bandit's miserable because I'm never home, and I think Bandit would like to know why she's stuck with me here. She got used to just being by herself, and now she's got this roommate.
Well, our dog, who has major separation anxiety, is in heaven because no one is leaving, and he has our company 24/7, which he thinks is like the best thing that's ever happened to him. So when this crisis ends, he is going to be very disappointed.
Wow, we got your dog and my cat need to meet because my cat looks at me like, "Why are you still here? You should be away by now." Do you I can't remember what my question was now. Bandit interrupted my thoughts. I'm sure it was a good one, whatever it was. Do you you talked about California just suspended their meetings as of yesterday. Ontario suspended their meetings indefinitely about 2 weeks ago. It was the day after Rose Lodge met at their official visit.
Right.
So, what do you think about? I was amazed that it took California this long to suspend activities compared to Ontario, which has far less cases suspended so much earlier. I guess, what do you think about Grand Lodge's response to the situation so far?
I think Grand Lodge did the right thing. I think they were proactive in doing it. And I'm surprised to hear, as you say, that California is just now getting around to canceling these meetings. Because as you know, many of our members are in the vulnerable category because they're elderly or they have some other health issues. So I think Grand Lodge and the other bodies, the supreme authorities and whatever body, I think they were all right in saying we can't meet at this time.
I would like to mention, though, because I have spoken to some members of Grand Lodge, even though they've suspended their meetings and staff is working from home, the Grand Lodge building is empty. The Grand Lodge functions are still, the work is still going on in terms of the benevolence committee is still communicating with each other if a brother is in need. One employee is picking up mail every day. A different one goes and grabs the mail. So the correspondence is still being received. So, the Grand Lodge functioning is still going on. Just nothing, obviously nothing involving close human contact right now. So if a brother needs benevolence or needs grand lodge
That's right.
assistance, they can still send an email, they can still send a letter, and it will get through. Same thing as with Rose Lodge, right? I'm sure you'd like to let your brother.
I think that's important to say. Yeah.
And with Rose Lodge too,
I
right?
think that's important to say, yes.
So if any brethren, even though lodges aren't meeting right now, if any brethren from Rose Lodge have questions or need assistance, they can contact yourself or the wardens or your brother's secretary.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we talked about it earlier,
I
and
think that goes without saying.
it does for sure, especially, although I think some of the newer brethren might not be aware of that. New candidates, new applicants.
Right.
So just so they know, even though we're not just Masons when we meet the first and third Wednesday or the second and fourth Wednesday, we're Masons all the time. Do you one cool thing to
I think it's a way of life.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
You're with your profession, with your you being the pastor at St. John's Anglican Church, and Masonry and religion have been connected with you or connected for you for since Masonry started for you. But a lot of people, some people think of Masonry as a religion. Um, some people think you have to be of a religious denomination to be a Mason. So here's my question: is how does your religious life connect with Masonry, but also how it's not the same thing? Masonry is not a religion, and you don't have to be a particular faith to be a Mason. Can you just talk about that?
Right. Well, I'll answer the latter part first, and that is when people say, "Oh, is Masonry a religion?" I think the example I always give is the Masonic ritual throughout assumes that a Mason prays. But Masonry gives no prayers, it gives no direction in prayer, it just assumes you pray. And that's because Masonry assumes if you want to learn how to pray, you're going to your pastor, your priest, your rabbi, your faith director, and that is where you are learning how to pray and giving examples of prayer. So Masonry is not a religion. It assumes you are perhaps connected to a religion, but that it is not a religion itself. But in terms of my own faith journey, the fascinating, interesting thing for me about Masonry is its more esoteric and mystical side, and it has led me to read up on things I perhaps would never have thought to read up on. So the elements in Masonry, such as Neoplatonism and the Hermetic tradition, the Jewish mystical tradition known as the Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism, these are all items that have interacted with Christianity, especially during the Renaissance period. And in fact, there was a movement in Anglicanism in the 17th century called the Cambridge Platonists, and these were clergy and theologians who were very much in tune with those esoteric currents such as the Kabbalah, the Hermetic tradition, and Rosicrucianism. So this is very much a part of my own tradition, and very much has been an influence within Anglicanism in general. So for me to study these aspects that Masonry points to is for me to appropriate a part of my own tradition that I perhaps would not have looked at without Masonry. So I think that's how, for me personally, there's been connection and help.
And I know you mentioned before. I liked what you said, so I want you to expand on it a little bit. You said you didn't come into Masonry with any real preconceived notions, so nothing was terribly surprising to you. For new guys joining, for your candidate who's coming in, there can always be the tendency to want to do your own research online, which is always a pretty it's a big risk because a lot of information won't be accurate. Or
and to be dubious, yeah.
or they want to try to learn as much as they can before they join. But as you said, right, sometimes the fun thing is to not have any preconceived notions and just go in with an open mind and see what Masonry offers. So what advice would you have for people just starting their Masonic journey, the candidates or the applicants who are waiting to become initiated?
Right. I think a caution in terms of popular media, that you don't come with all those ideas stuck in your head. So the kind of Dan Brown effect, where Masonry is part of a vast conspiracy and tied with dark currents in our history, I think the candidate needs to put that aside and find out for himself what it is really about. And of course, once you join Lodge, we can point people to authoritative sources for learning about Masonry that are not the popular ones. So I think once you're in Masonry, take time to learn about it, but do so from authoritative sources and from direction, rather than sort of popular hype and that kind of thing. I guess that's some of the advice I would give.
And as we are wrapping this up, any final thoughts, any messages you want to send out? I'm not sure when. We air these every Sunday, so this one will be coming pretty soon. Hopefully, by the time it comes out, we'll be all back meeting in Lodge. But if not, any messages you want to send to your brethren in Rose Lodge and Scottish Rite, and also anything you want to say to Masons out there around the world who are going through all this fun stuff. This will be seen by dozens of people, dozens and dozens of people. But some from Rose Lodge.
Well, that is sweet. So we hope that's true. Well, my advice is, in these trying times, is to be patient, to continue to pray and to wait on God, to stay in touch with one another, and to be safe, to stay away from those who may be infected. In the end, Masonry is about making a better world and a better community. And so in these stressful times, let's not forget that aspect of Masonry, that when this all ends, the task of Masonry will still be there and will be needed all the more as we pick up the pieces of some of the wreckage that will be left in the wake of this pandemic.
You were always the Mason who we would often give the prayer at the end of a meeting before we had our food or at special functions, Scottish Rite. Would you like to say anything now, like a prayer or a blessing for all of us, for everybody going through stuff, especially the older brethren having a hard time maybe being isolated right now?
Well, let me just give the Aaronic blessing, which is from the Scriptures and certainly for all of us. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
All right, well, be safe, brother, and I look forward to getting to see you in person once this is all said and done.
Thank you, Cameron. Much appreciated.